surprise, spend more of their money locally. And this contributes to what we call the economic multiplier. Now, the economic multiplier really refers to the fact that when I spend $1 at a local restaurant, someone from that restaurant perhaps takes that dollar to a local filling station, someone works at that filling station, takes that dollar to a farm stand and buys $1's worth of food. So we have this dollar that's kind of circulating through your economy here. And the more times this dollar circulates and the faster it circulates, the more income, wealth, and jobs. And it just turns out that local businesses do this better. So this is a classic study on the issue done in 2002 by a group called Civic Economics, looking at the impact of $100 spent at a Borders bookstore versus $100 spent at a local bookstore. $100 spent at the Borders left $13 in the local economy. $100 spent at the local bookstore left $45 in the local economy. So roughly speaking, if you buy the exact same book at the same price from the local bookstore, you get 3 times the jobs, 3 times the income and the tax effects, 3 times the wealth creation. We're not talking about small potatoes of difference. It's a huge difference. And the reason is that the local bookstore had a local management team on the ground. They used local business services. They advertised on local radio and TV. And they had a stream of local profits coming into the community, none of which were true for the Borders. And this is why local ownership and the relationships and the multiplier around it is so critical for any coherent form of economic development. A second point is that because local businesses are anchored to a place, because they don't have plans for moving to Mexico or Malaysia, they are more reliable businesses to put money into for economic development. So this slide here comes from a debate that I had with the principal porkmeister of Lane County, Oregon, about 6 years ago. And he had put several $million into attracting businesses through tax abatements. That was his economic development strategy. And the local newspaper did a little study on what he had done and found that 95% of the tax abatement money went to 6 non-local businesses. 3 came, took the money, and then moved to Asia. 2 came, took the money, and never delivered the jobs they promised. The other 5% of the economic development money and tax abatements went to about 50 locally owned businesses. They made very modest job promises, and by and large, they kept the promises that they made. So the bottom line was stunning, because in tax abatement terms, the cost of a local job was $2,000. The cost of all of the non-local jobs attracted was $22,000. But remember, some of those jobs came and went. So in net job terms, the cost of a non-local job through attraction or retention was $67,000. It's more than 30 times more expensive to get a job focusing on global business. If you want to understand why the Obama administration is in such hot water right now for spending nearly $1 trillion on stimulus and generating so few obvious jobs, this is the reason. Because he failed to focus on local businesses in general and local food businesses in particular. Second reason why local food matters, health and nutrition. I think more and more Americans are concerned about E. coli coming from meat in Canada or dog food coming from China that kills their pets. A third issue, carbon footprints. It's kind of a no-brainer that local food has a smaller carbon footprint than non-local food. And the reason is, remember the slide that I showed about the bookstores. Local businesses spend their money locally. That means the inputs travel shorter distances. Local businesses also focus on local markets. So that means the outputs travel shorter distances. Shorter distances, less transportation, less energy, less carbon that's thrown into the atmosphere. The reason why I have the mad lamb there is that despite this sort of obvious point, you find all of these cutesy articles in the mainstream press that say, well, generally speaking, yeah, local food is good for lower carbon footprints, but there's so many exceptions. We cannot take this seriously. So 3 summers ago, a historian named James McWilliams, who is one of the most untrustworthy people in this field, by the way, wrote an op-ed in the New York Times where he said a study has just been published in New Zealand that shows that if you live in the United Kingdom and you're consuming local lamb, that lamb has 4 times the carbon as lamb that's imported from New Zealand. Well, I was really interested in this, so I decided to do something that the editorial board at the New York Times apparently didn't do, which is read the study. First of all, guess who underwrote the study? The New Zealand Lamb Export Association. And then what were they looking at? They were comparing badly done, energy-intensive bionic lamb in New Zealand with badly done bionic lamb in the United Kingdom. So the United Kingdom bionic lambs have all of these coal inputs, so they're dirty bionic lambs. Whereas the New Zealand bionic lambs have renewable hydropower feeding all of their energy appetites. So they're clean green bionic lambs. The amazing thing is the study never looked at local lamb. It wasn't even a subject of the study. And this is the kind of garbage that is masquerading these days as serious analysis to dissuade us to move into local food. There, of course, have been some great studies, reliable studies done on carbon footprint. This from the University of Washington 2 years ago, looking at identical plates of food, one short distance traveling, one long distance, and surprise, the long distance plate of food has nearly twice the carbon output as the short distance plate of food. Number 4, the creative economy. Many of us are familiar with the work of Richard Florida, who wrote the book, The Rise of the Creative Class. Florida says the most successful economies are going to be those that are diverse, fun, tolerant, and entrepreneurial, because these are the communities that will hold on to the best and brightest people, particularly young people. If you're a young person coming out of this community college and the best food job you can find is flipping burgers, you're out of here. But if you can find a way to convert your brilliant idea for a local food business into reality, you're going to stick around. So at the end of the day, the more that we embrace local food and local businesses, the more we can build this rich entrepreneurial economy that will be a magnet for talented people. Finally, resilience. Become overly dependent on outside goods and some nasty things can happen. Import a lot of oil and oops, you get a weird foreign policy. Now, I want to move to my second question, because what's interesting is that, believe it or not, many economic developers now more or less concede what I've just shared with you. But what they say is, okay, Shuman, look, we agree we have a local apple and a non-local apple, same price, same quality, same convenience. Yes, that local apple will get all the things you're talking about, the better development and more resilience and entrepreneurship and creative economy and tourism and a bunch of other things. But these apples are never the same. The local apple's always going to be more expensive. Bigger is cheaper. Bigger businesses get better economies of scale. So I wanted to take on this argument head on. I just finished a study for the Gates Foundation called Community Food Enterprises that I did in collaboration with the Wallace Center at Winrock International. And we looked at 24 great examples of local food businesses. And by the way, if you want to download this, I have this on my last website on the last slide. It's at www.communityfoodenterprise.org. You can download it for free. But we looked at 24 food businesses, 12 in the United States, 12 internationally. We covered a bunch of different kinds of food businesses: farmers, value-added manufacturers, distributors, restaurants, other kinds of food service providers. We looked at all kinds of corporate forms: for-profit S-corps and stock corporations, nonprofits, co-ops, producer and consumer co-ops. We looked at public-private partnerships. So we got a really rich mix of local food businesses. And what we found were extraordinary examples of how local businesses are becoming competitive and how local food businesses can, and I believe will, win the marketplace. I want to give you a baker's dozen of examples. It's not exhaustive, but it just gives you a feel of some of the things that we looked at. For example, we found that local businesses are using appropriate technology that gives them competitive advantages. Anna Marie Seafood in Duloc, Louisiana, is run by a fellow named Lance Nacio. And he developed an onboard quick freezing technology for, in a sense, freezing in the freshness. And he is able to deliver far fresher shrimp than most of his bigger competitors. And as a result, he has been able to get orders from Ritz-Carlton hotels and the Williams-Sonoma catalog. He's also a big hit in the New Orleans farmers market. Number two, direct delivery. The Oklahoma Food Co-op has really pioneered how to get rid of the enormous inefficiency that is in today's food distribution system. Once a month, the Oklahoma Food Co-op has what can only be described as a colossal ballet, where they have 38 distribution sites, dozens of farmers, where thousands of orders move across the state. They do this via the internet, very low tech. And the remarkable thing is that this thing is highly competitive. This is an important graph here from data given by Stuart Smith, who used to be the Secretary of Agriculture in Maine. What he shows is that when you spent $1 on foodstuff in the year 1900, something like 40 cents went to the farmer, the rest went to inputs and distribution. And today, it's 7 cents that goes to the farmer and 73 cents for distribution. And by distribution, I mean refrigeration, packaging, trucking, insurance, advertising, middle people, retail markup, things that have nothing to do really with food. Oklahoma Food Co-op doesn't have a 73% overhead. They have 18%. 18%. Now that number will go up a little bit over time, but this is why this model of competitive local food distribution is catching on in more than a dozen states across the United States right now. Number three, aggregation.